Hello, my name is Jason Drake and I am the designer and developer of the Stamp Image Burst application, which I've written for helping to burst stamp images for my collection. So typically we'll actually start with an off-the-shelf product, in this particular case Paint.net, where I have scanned in a stock sheet or a subregion of a stock sheet of stamps that I purchased. And you can see here I've got a variety of stamps. I've oriented some of the Kenyan stamps vertically so that I can fit more on the page. And right now, if I want to break these images from this current sheet into smaller images that actually get stored in my stamp database application, it actually would take me considerable time to go through and do this. And so I've written an application to help me try to find those boxes and actually break out those stamps, and that's known as image bursting. So I will open up that particular image in the application, and you can see that down below where it's loading the image, you'll see it's going to generate some overlays, it's going to do a bunch of conversion, it's going to try to do some cleanup and filtering, and what we actually end up with is a determination of the bounding boxes. And so the bounding boxes are the regions that surround the stamps, and I've actually padded it so that there's a nice sort of border around that particular image. And if I zoom out here, you can see that it actually correctly identified all the stamps in the page. It did actually come up with a secondary subregion on this Sierra Leone stamp around the 3 pence. There are some anomalies in the algorithm, however I'll show that particular case doesn't actually matter. If you highlight any stamp, it will select the bounding box, and in this particular case I can actually delete bounding boxes. I also have the ability to add new ones. You can zoom in or zoom out on the particular stamps. I can actually regenerate the overlays if I've made too many mistakes. But what I found in most cases, I actually don't have to touch anything on the screen. I simply need to open up the file, have it calculate the outlines of the stamps, and that's sufficient. On the next step, I have the ability to now specify a default country and then apply it by default to the country drop-down on each individual row. And this is useful if you have a series of stamps from a given country that you need to parse or burst out. So I'll pick Sierra Leone in this case, and I'll actually enter some numbers. What you enter in these fields can be anything that you want, and it doesn't really matter. It's however you want to classify. It also supports the ability to choose JPEG or PNG formats. And you can also choose a different individual country. So in this case I will pick Bermuda for this particular item. I'll make that 45. And the other feature I wanted to show is the ability to rotate. So in this particular case I'll actually choose this one as the correct country, and I'll put in some random number, and I'll actually rotate it so it's in the correct orientation. If I click the burst button, it'll ask me for a target directory that I wish to burst the images into. So I'll put them into dev images. And upon bursting them, it came back and said, well, there was a couple conflicts. In this particular case, the Sierra Leone 23 and 24 already existed. There's the proposed image on the right and the original image that's on the current file system on the left. This just allows you to say whether or not you want to override it or not. By unselecting it, it won't override it. I had some issues where I accidentally chose a wrong country or a wrong catalog number, and that can happen, and so it overrode some images for me on occasion. Now, typically what I'll do is I'll actually click the reset between a burst, and then I'll actually select the new default country. And this works well if you've got many stamps from one country that you need to burst in a row. And so now I could actually I can quickly rotate some of those stamps that are the wrong size. And I can orient them correctly. I can also go back, of course, and choose other countries from the drop down individually. I can reburst it. It will remember the last directory that was chosen, so it will continue with that directory. Again, here with another conflict, I'll choose in this particular case to override that one. Okay, so what actually happens when the bursting happens? Well, if I go to the D drive, dev images, you'll notice that each of these countries gets a corresponding directory, and within that country is all the stamps that have been burst underneath various text. And so you can see here's at Sierra Leone 10D, there's 23 and 24, those caused an earlier conflict. Under Kenya and Uganda, I've got a series of those stamps I hit output. So that about wraps up the demo. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.